Welcome to The Explainer. It's pretty incredible to think about a single country that has pretty much every landscape you can imagine. How is it possible for one nation to have the world's highest mountains, these huge, fertile plains, ancient rocky plateaus, and tropical islands? Well, today, we're going to find out. So let's start with just one number, 3.28 million. That's the area of India in square kilometers. We're not just talking about a big country here. This is practically a subcontinent. And that massive scale is really the key to understanding all the incredible diversity we're about to get into. So here's how we're going to tackle this journey. First, we'll get a handle on the country's huge size. Then, we'll head north to that great Himalayan wall. From there, we'll come down into the river-fed heartland, cross the ancient southern plateau, and wrap up our tour on its beautiful coasts and islands. Okay, first up, let's really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this place. Because a country's size and shape on the map, they aren't just lines, They really define its climate, its culture, and believe it or not, even how its people experience time. Just try to picture this for a second. A trip from the snowy peaks of Kashmir all the way down to the tropical beaches of Kanyakumari is over 3,000 kilometers. And going from east to west is almost the same distance. This isn't just big, it's absolutely continent-sized. Now, that massive east-west spread, we're talking almost 30 degrees of longitude, well, it brings up a really fascinating problem. If the sun is rising at totally different times across the country, how does everyone agree on what time it is? What this literally means is that the sun can be fully up for folks in the east, while the west coast is still completely dark. There's a natural time difference of a full 2 hours. So to keep things from getting chaotic, the whole country just agrees to use one single time zone, Indian Standard Time. And of course, a country this huge is going to have a lot of neighbors, right? India shares its land borders with 7 different nations, which creates this incredibly complex and dynamic frontier that has really shaped its history for centuries. All right, let's shift our focus now to the northern frontier. And calling it a frontier doesn't even do it justice. We're talking about a colossal wall of rock and ice that literally shapes the climate for the entire subcontinent. We're talking about the Himalayas. The name itself really tells you everything. In Sanskrit, Himalaya translates to the abode of snow. It's just the perfect way to describe a mountain range that is forever covered in ice and snow. Now, here's something a lot of people get wrong. The Himalayas aren't just one single line of mountains. They're actually 3 parallel ranges, all running side by side. The one furthest north, the Himadri, that's the big one. It's got the world's highest peaks. Then there's the middle range, the Himachal, where you'll find all those popular hill stations. And finally, the southernmost range is the lower Shivalik. Okay, so imagine we're coming down from those incredible heights of the Himalayas. The whole landscape just flattens out into this massive green area. This is the Northern Plains, and it is the agricultural heart of India. So what's the secret to this region's incredible richness? It's all about something called alluvial deposits. Basically, for thousands and thousands of years, rivers have been carrying this superfine, nutrient-rich soil down from the Himalayas and spreading it all over this basin. It's like a gift from the mountains. These great rivers, the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra, they are the absolute lifeblood of this area. They built these plains, and that amazing fertility is exactly why so many people live here. It's one of the most densely populated places on the planet. And where 2 of these mighty rivers finally meet the sea, well, they create something absolutely monumental. They join forces to form the Sundarbans, which is the world's largest river delta. Just incredible. All right, let's head south. As we leave those young, fertile plains behind, we're basically stepping back in time onto a much, much older landscape. This is the Peninsular Plateau, the ancient, rocky core of the subcontinent. And the name Peninsular Plateau gives you a huge clue about its shape. A peninsula is just a piece of land that's surrounded by water on 3 sides. And that's exactly what you see with southern India. It's framed by the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Bay of Bengal. The edges of this plateau are framed by 2 mountain ranges, called the Ghats. But here's the thing, they are not identical twins. The Western Ghats form this almost continuous, solid wall along the coast. But the Eastern Ghats, they're much more broken up and uneven. So this difference between the Ghats, It's a huge deal. It basically tilts the entire subcontinent. Only a couple of major rivers, the Narmada and Tapi, managed to push through that western wall and flow into the Arabian Sea. Most of the other big rivers, like the Godavari and Krishna, actually start in the west but have to flow all the way east, across the whole plateau to drain into the Bay of Bengal. For our final stop, we're leaving the mainland behind altogether because India's geography doesn't just stop at the water's edge, it extends out into the sea with two very different and totally fascinating groups of islands. You've got two main groups of islands, and they couldn't be more different. Over in the Arabian Sea, you have the Lakshadweep Islands, and way out east in the Bay of Bengal are the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. One is a collection of tiny coral atolls, and the other is a chain of volcanic hills. The way the Lakshadweep Islands were formed is, well, it's just mind-blowing. They're not made of rock or dirt, they're made of life. These islands are basically the built-up skeletons of millions and millions of tiny marine animals called polyps, which accumulated over thousands of years until they finally poked through the surface of the ocean. So, from the highest peaks on Earth to islands literally built by microscopic creatures, it's clear India isn't just one landscape, it's a collection of many. This incredible physical diversity has been the backdrop for all of its history, its cultures, its languages. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. Does this incredible geography divide people, or is the shared experience of living in these wildly different places the very thing that unites them?